short summary of what I'll be covering. It's where we are or where we come from, challenges that we have, and opportunities that we have, and then where I think we go from here. And I'll talk a bit about myself because it's basically based on my own experience. Uh, so hopefully you can relate to it. I started, as said, at the UN in early warning systems um, to support early warning systems with remote sensing data in FAO in the UN. And then basically what I got obsessed with was doing effective data management, making sure that we use free and open source software to in a sustainable way. Yeah, this worked. So I founded a GeoNetwork project back in 2001. It was, I think, one of the first open source projects in the UN. Um, and I convinced my bosses that this was better than using proprietary software. And I had to do quite a bit of explanation. Then I joined the board of FOSS4GE in 2007 and joined again on the board last year. Then I thought UN is not a software developing company, so I moved out and founded a company myself. So this is what started 25 years ago. A catalog showing what data FAO had and also what other UN agencies had. And this is where we're now. So driving over 85% of national catalogs for geospatial data in Europe, but it's also widely used outside of Europe. And it's definitely not only used for national endpoints, it's used in a lot of other levels of government and so on. This is where we are with GeoCat. We're in the Netherlands, we're in Canada, and we're in Spain. And the guy in the middle is, knows him, obviously. David Blasby, he developed the version 1 of PostGIS. And we do a lot of sponsoring of OSGeo with FOSS4GE conferences, as you probably noticed also. So where do we come from as a community? This is quite an interesting image of the Open Geospatial Consortium 2004 of what they saw as the spatial data infrastructure with geospatial portal, catalog, data services, portrayal services, other things we know quite well. And so we implemented new stuff on software that we're just starting to develop. This is an example where I contributed a little bit to Goodall for our own benefit in the UN system. We needed to make specific satellite images and send them to countries. And I needed a tool that could extract this from existing satellite data. And I had to fit in a custom application that we also provided to those countries. And so I added the support to that by contracting with Frank Warmerdam, and it showed up in other applications later on. It was really exciting for me to see that I could do a small contribution and see it suddenly be available all over the place. So we worked on cloud mapping, and it's not me, but this is a GRASS system running on an IPEC device. So it has happened quite a bit. This is 20 years ago in a workshop that we did, demonstrating what kind of things we used. So we were basically discovering how FOSS was working for us. I had to explain to people what software was and how software could actually be replicated without additional cost. And what the source code, what makes an application, and you can use a basis of software for different users, and then change the UI and have a little bit a different piece of software, or add things to it and really make different versions of the same software so that it would work for all the different people. That went quite a long way, and I think it still does. Because we were always developing new stuff. But, and this is kind of the warning part, uh, do we use that freedom that we have effectively? Often we have many, many forks. We make deployments at organizations that become really hard to maintain. We face a lot of regressions when we do updates of our forks. And then we also lose a lot of code. So there's a lot of people that are implementing their own stuff. And then when they need to upgrade, they or lose it or find something similar in the main code base. A lot of effort lost. And it causes a lot of patience with developers, especially in core products that are stretched anyway. So that can have a really significant bad effect on both developers and customers or users of the software. It can even backfire. And we've seen this happening. Customers that had to pay so much for upgrades or maintenance, they just moved back to proprietary stuff. So what are some of today's risks? Because this is something that probably a lot of you recommend. So did we, in all these years, really consider the cost of our software, the real cost? We always portrayed it as, oops, some sign is lost. So there should have been some percentages in it, lost in the export. But the real cost of software development is probably 25%, some say 20, some even less. And maintenance cost is like 75% of the total cost. And it could be that in open source, this is even higher. The cost of technical staff leaving an organization. They've been setting up systems in an organization, decide to move on to another job, to another role, to another organization. You have to train technical experts again, or you're lost with your system that you have running. We also face developer sustainability. And this has been a real thing with good old OGR, for instance, where a very small or a very important piece of software is maintained by a very small group and they're actually underfunded. They're overwhelmed with vulnerability reports. This happens a lot nowadays with AI systems, discovering things, reporting things that may not be actual bugs. We've had a situation where important critical software has been compromised by someone purposely putting that in. Developers have been harassed because they don't deliver what is expected from them, but nobody pays them, and they face burnout. And then more recent risks. The security risks, compliance management, things that are requested of software, and how do we deal with them as open source community projects? So think of the Cyber Resilience Act, CVE processes, or how are vulnerabilities reported, how are they mitigated? Do we do penetration tests in server software, etc.? Then This is a question I don't have answers, but how are cross licenses respected by AI systems? When you code or does Copilot infringe on GPL license code that you put on GitHub? And the other way around, can you license code that you wrote using prompt engineering? So is our community prepared for a challenging future? Because there's also this thing of corporate sustainability issues with open source. Elasticsearch had this, Amazon basically hijacked their software by providing services at a cost, but did not actually pay for that to Elastic. So they changed that model to a closed source, or semi-closed. Now they've opened it again with another license. These people that can tell you more in the crowd. So some opportunities at the same time. AI can be really used to help answering questions of people that are new to the software. How do I use it? How do I configure something? How, all kind of questions around the software could be answered instead of by a mailing list. The GPT could probably give you an answer. So this can offload uh, pressure on community members, on core developers. Uh, and it also is a challenge. We had a presentation in the Netherlands University by a professor there. And she said, I'm actually forcing my students to communicate with community members instead of using ChatGPT, because otherwise they will not connect with the community and they will not start get involved. So that's another risk actually. But, so there's a benefit and a trade-off in using AI. Can AI make maintenance of software easy? Can we do upgrades of libraries, of frameworks automatically using AI to refactor our code and go to the next release version that's more secure, up to date, etc. Really reducing maintenance costs. And can we use AI to improve usability? Can we use natural language to query in a piece of software and get results that you would normally be forced to write a SQL statement or be very precise in how you interact with the software? So you can, there's presentations here that start showing that, and I think it's really a big thing for the future as well. There's new license models that evolve, and I'm not a license expert, but GPL was used now for Elasticsearch. There's some other software. It's a model to still have GPL, both a bit more protected as a company. There's a fair source initiative uh, that does similar things and also proposes a delayed open source publication. Again, I've not used those, I've read about them, and so we'll have to see as a community where that takes us. Do we need those kind of licenses? Do we need those models to make open source software sustainable? And the questions that some of you probably know well, and others they start to think about. Same opportunity, European legislation now and policies. We're really working towards more European cloud, less big tech, US dependent. Is more European topic, uh, but it will impact how we develop open source in Europe for sure. So we have many mature projects, and we have many mature companies that didn't exist in our geospatial world 20, 25 years ago. And we have more and more mature customers. And I think that part is also very important. Does the customer and user of the software understand how he or she should contribute to open source software? So where do we go from here? One thing that is clear is that free software is not good enough. We need, in my opinion, mature products. Products that you can just put off the shelf and start using, and you feel comfortable. You don't need to face multiple versions of the same software product. It's a bit like the car. You should go to a mechanic. You should not be a mechanic in order to drive a car. It should be easy to use. It should be clean and consistent user experience. The steering wheels here, all these type. It should be self-explanatory. Training certification should be available. And this is things that are worked on also in Europe. The certification, European certification strategies that we could use. You should have access to the stable components and also know which ones probably not to be used, but maybe you won't know. So you need to know from a supplier, is this extension stable? Is that feature maintained? Yes or no? Should I use it? We have trust, and we should, as a user, we should trust the compliance of software with regulations. And you should not be forced yourself to start doing this kind of thing. And the perk of free and open source software is you're free to select the model, you're free to select the garage, but you need those facilities to be there. Yeah. And so we also need a factory to produce. Those could be multiple factories, could be multiple models or makes, but it should be there in some way. And as a user, you should not be in the seat of a factory. And you need uh, mechanics or garages to maintain your stuff. So what is required to actually build software? That's something developers know, that companies know. Technical expertise to install, update, configure, these kind of things are really useful if you have technical experts that help you out. Know about vulnerabilities early. A customer should not know, or a user should not have to be aware of a vulnerability, should probably be informed. If you drive a car and your airbag doesn't work well and it needs to have a callback, it's the factory that should make the callback. It should not be you explaining why this is not safe. Know what components are stable, which ones are maintained, and which ones are not, and are experimental, and are maybe not yet fit to deliver to customers. Organize funded code reviews, so help in the maintenance process, formalize those, probably enforce them, and ensure compliance with the regulations, for instance, CRA in Europe. In GeoCut, we decided to make that change like 5-6 years ago, and we were mainly doing consulting. And I think many of the companies that we have currently do a lot of consulting. And we said, okay, we're not doing consulting at the same level anymore. We'll start delivering products. We'll start delivering standard cars, and the only thing you can change is the paint and maybe the type of tires. That's it. And we really had we charged our customers a fee, but it was not at the same level as we had to do when we were developing for a particular customer. It was much, much more expensive. So I think we reduced costs for instance, our Dutch cadastre by eightfold, uh, while we now pay a regular maintenance fee. So we can spread the cost along across a lot of different agencies. And we're now at the level where we have 95% of our regular funding coming in through product subscriptions. And so it allows us to start investing in the maintenance and so on ourselves. And consulting would always be a part. So I think the line will flatten out. So we have a product that's based on top of GeoNetwork open source. It allows us to make GeoNetwork open source. The code base is virtually the same. The only thing we guarantee it's a stable version. And if there's bugs or vulnerabilities, we fix them. And we help to configure it properly for each specific customer. Oops. And this kind of relates to the old image of the OGC spatial data infrastructure. This is what's happening now with data spaces. Basically the same concept, a bit more advanced with a bit more security layers on top of it, but the whole concept is still the same. It's a big thing, data spaces, and at the same time I look at it and say, it's so comparable to what we had. There's some extra work to be done. But it allows us to step into that and create uh, a SaaS, a hosted solution that can be seen as a mini data space, and that we can make sure to connect using those different technologies needed. And it, talking to uh, government agencies, people in the province, in the city, at the ministry, they very often never heard of data spaces. They have no clue about the technology, and they, like you, don't have to know how the engine works of your car. And now we're working on maturing partnerships and making sure we work with other companies that do complementary products that we could include in our offerings to our customers. I think we should get more and more of those kind of partnerships. Thank you.